What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be installing a set of these Kein Fab fender braces. These fender braces bolt up to the front end of the car and they actually stiffen up your chassis, which will make your car handle better and respond better in the curves. And I'm going to walk you guys through the installation on my 1998 RS Coupe, which as you guys can see, has a 2004 WRX engine swap. Thanks so much for checking out the video guys, I really appreciate it. My name's Luke, and you guys are watching the SubaruONLY show. My little SubaruONLY shop. It's a DIY Subaru channel. It's a channel where all I do is Subaru builds and race Subaru vehicles and motorsport events. It's a DIY themed channel where I walk you guys through the steps to get your Subarus back on the road and hopefully do a little racing of your own. So thanks for checking out the video guys. I really appreciate it. So basically, here's the general location these suckers install. They basically install right underneath these front fenders, and they're going to install right about here. But of course, to install these suckers, you're going to have to remove the front fenders, and to do that, I'm going to have to do a couple other things. So let's walk through that real fast. Put these suckers back. Okay, to remove the front fender, first thing we have to do is, since I'm using these little hood strut props, I'm actually going to have to remove these little props right here, and I'll probably remove it up here too as well, just to get it all the way out of the way. That way I've got that hood strut little prop out of the way. Then I can go ahead and remove all these little bolts. There's a bunch of little bolts right here, so I'll go ahead and remove all those bolts. There's also a bolt down in front, and I'm not sure if there's a bolt on here, but there's definitely a bolt holding the front fender to the bumper, or the bumper cover, and I'll remove that as well. That way I should have all the pieces needed to remove this front fender, and I gain access to that location where I'm going to be installing that front fender brace. But before I dive into this installation, I want to pause right here and give a big shout out to two of the guys that are actually responsible for helping make this video, and those are Sergey Kein, and you can actually check him out on his Instagram at @FKeinFab, or check him out on his Facebook page or his eBay site. Sergey is the owner of Kein Fabrication, and he actually makes a bunch of different suspension and chassis parts, as well as a bunch of other miscellaneous parts for Subarus of all makes and models. And then I also want to give a big shout out to Jeremiah RAINE, and you can actually follow him on his Instagram at rain.racing01. Jeremiah actually helped coordinate this video, and he's been using Kein Fabrications on his Subaru GC race car for several years now. So check out his Instagram if you want to follow his motorsport stuff. And now we'll jump back to the installation video guys, but make sure you give those two a little bit of love and support. Okay guys, let's dive into getting this sucker installed. So the first thing we have to do is remove this hood prop, because this hood prop is actually getting in the way of removing this fender. And that's the primary thing I'm gonna have to do in this video, is remove this fender. That way I've got access to the locations where we're gonna install this fender brace. Because like I said earlier in the video, this fender brace right here basically is going to install underneath this fender right about this location. So the whole point of this video is going to be to remove this fender to get access to all the bolt holes so we can bolt this fender brace up to the chassis and stiffen everything up. All right. So that's going to be the primary objective, remove everything that's obstructing this fender and remove this fender altogether. And to do that, I got to remove this hood prop, and that's going to be a location right here and a location over here. And I'm going to walk you guys through how to remove these hood props, because it's really pretty simple, but if you don't do it the right way, it's actually a huge pain in the ass and you're going to break something. So I'll walk you guys through how to remove these little hood props. Okay guys, you're looking at a close-up of the hood prop, and I'm going to remove it on this end first where a hook connects to the hood. And the way these hood props work is they actually have this little metal retaining clip. What you need to do to remove these, you actually need to pull this metal retaining clip out just slightly, and then you can actually pop this sucker off that little round stud. And what I'm using is just a small little flat blade screwdriver. So get something similar to that, and you can slip it right underneath that little metal tang, lift that metal tang up slightly, like this, and then you should be able to pop, and you should be able to pop that sucker off. And then go ahead and push that clip back in place, because you can go ahead and push it back over that little round stud with the clip in place. You don't have to hold that clip out when you put it back on. You just have to pull that clip out when you remove it. So that's the first step. I'll go ahead and do that to the other side and completely remove this hood prop. All right, I got the hood prop removed, and of course I had to remove that hood prop because this little ball stud is actually taking the place of one of the bolts that's holding this fender in. So I'll remove that little ball stud. That's basically one of the bolts. I'll remove all the other bolts that are holding this fender in, like this bolt right here, this bolt right here, and that bolt right here. So you remove all 4 of those bolts, and that will be all the top bolts for this fender. And we'll also need to go ahead and remove this corner lens. So go ahead and take a little Phillips screwdriver, remove that bolt, and remove this corner lens, and then we'll go ahead and take a closer look at all the bolts that you need to remove to get this fender out. Okay, as you guys saw, I removed the wheel and I got the car jacked up, and I've removed the little corner lens so we can actually see all the bolts here. So of course we got all these bolts up top I'm gonna have to remove. I'll remove all those, that'll be real easy. Now that I have the corner lens removed, you can see that there's actually some bolts in here you need to remove. And so I'll remove these bolts as well. That's real easy to get to now that I have the corner lens removed. And like I mentioned earlier, there's actually another clip or fastener or maybe bolt like I'm using right here, and I'll get underneath the car and show you, that holds that front fender to that front bumper cover. That is right actually in here. If you can see it, yep, right here. It's either gonna be a plastic clip or like I'm using a little bolt right here. That's holding that front bumper cover. So we'll remove that as well. That'll be really easy, especially now that we have the wheel removed. And then over here is actually gonna be a stud and a nut that's holding this front fender to the body as well, and you have to remove this lower side skirt to get to it. So I'm gonna have to remove this side skirt to get to that last little stud location, I believe. So I'll do that as well. And then I don't think there's any other bolts on here that connect it. It's basically just the bolts in the front and the back and along the top. And then while I'm at it, I'm gonna replace this little side marker. As you guys can see, I'll do a little close up. This side marker is really kind of thrashed and damaged and weathered over time. And I've got a new set. So anytime you guys remove your front fender, remember it's a great time to swap out these little side markers. I'll show you guys which ones I have right here. They're not actually the OEM ones, they're like little JDM Depot clear side markers. They're like Depot brand, they're a little cheaper, but they actually have really nice lenses, and I kind of like the looks of these. And they're gonna actually match the side markers I have in the front, right? So, the corner lenses. And then of course, while I'm here, I will mention like the suspension I got here. These are actually the 4-piston calibers. These are direct bolt-on. These are actually the calibers that came on that GC STIs, like the version 5 and 6 STIs back in the day. So the 4-piston, the four pots in the front and the 2 pots in the back, which I also have in the back, the 2 pots. And then of course you got the stainless steel brake line right here. These are actually the KYB adjustable shocks. You can actually adjust them right here on the top. That's where those little adjustment marks are for those shocks. And I actually have Group N strut top mounts here. It's a little harder rubber compound that adds a little bit more stiffness to that front suspension. And then of course right now I'm running stock coils. So that's the basic setup right here. And these are actually Peddlers or Pedders. I think it's an Australian brand for the rotor, and they're slotted. They're not actually drilled. These are just dimples right here. So they're not drilled all the way through. And then these are just slotted. So slotted and dimpled rotors. And so far this has been a great setup. It's worked really well. But I haven't put a lot of miles in this car, and we actually haven't taken it on the track yet at all either. Okay guys, so that's basically the status right now. I'll go ahead and remove that little front side skirt. That way I can get to that last stud, and then I'll go ahead and remove all the bolts that are holding this front fender up, and I should be ready to remove this whole front fender. And then we should be ready to bolt up this Kein Fabrication fender brace. Okay, getting that side skirt off was kind of interesting. That was the first time I've removed that side skirt, and it was put on kind of janky, but we'll get into that in another video. So I've removed the side skirt, as you can see right here. There's a back half over there that's still installed. So the front half is removed. I actually have it right there underneath the car. And you definitely need to remove that sucker. But the reason you need to remove that is actually because it's actually covering, right? It's covering this fender, so you're not gonna be able to remove the fender without getting to it. But it's actually not holding a bolt right here like I thought. I haven't actually removed one of these bolts. I haven't removed one of these fenders in a while. But I remember there is a location over here where there's a hidden bolt, and the location of that hidden bolt is actually in between this door and your fender. And you actually have to open your front door. And when you open the front door, that creates a gap right here, which reveals where that bolt is. And that bolt is what's holding this front fender in. There's actually one down here, and there's one up here as well. So go ahead and open your front door. There's a passenger door. Open it all the way. Once you open it, you create this gap right here. And then once you create that gap, you actually see right here, that's that lower bolt. So you gotta remove this little 10mm bolt, and this bolt is actually holding the bottom of this fender to the chassis. And then there's another bolt up here. Where is that sucker? Right here at the top. You gotta remove this little 10mm bolt as well. Once you remove these two bolts, and then of course all the bolts along the top and the bolt right there, then that should be all the bolts for this fender, and we should be able to remove this fender all the way. So I'll go ahead and do that next, and hopefully we'll be able to remove this front fender. Okay guys, I misspoke before. There actually is one more little bolt on the very bottom of this front fender right here. I actually missed it on the first round when I told you guys there wasn't one here. There's one right here, so definitely don't forget this bottom bolt. This is the last bolt, and that sucker's out. So I should have all the bolts out now, and I should be able to remove this front fender. So I'll put the camera up on the tripod, and we'll go ahead and see if we can remove this front fender now. All right, now we got that front fender off, and you can see, it's actually the first time I've seen this, so we can kind of see how dirty it is. This is a good chance to clean everything up. So I'll give it a thorough cleaning before I put this brace on and before I put anything back on. Got some little plant matter here, or dead bug or something. All right, nice. So we can also see now where this Kein Fab fender brace bolts up. So let's go ahead and check out these mounting locations for this Kein Fab fender brace. So let's see here. Okay, so now we have this fender off. You can see where this fender brace is going to mount up, and you can see the orientation of these braces is like that. So basically these two holes bolt up right here, and I'll get some grade 8 bolts with a little flanged head on them to pull it in right there. Make sure you use a little Loctite. And then these bolts actually line up with the door braces. So I'm actually gonna have to remove the doors, or at least the bolts and the hardware for these braces to install these, because you can see down here, also on the bottom, they line up with those door bracket bolts. So that's where these suckers line up. I actually didn't realize that they were gonna line up with those door bracket bolts, but this is the first time I've installed these, so I'm learning here with you guys for the first time. So that's where these suckers line up, just like that. Try to get my hands back so you can kind of see. That's exactly the way these braces are gonna line up. Basically, I think I can just remove these bolts and put these braces on over the brackets. So I doubt I'm gonna have to remove these doors. It looks to me like I can just take one bolt, take a couple bolts out right here, put the bolts back in with the brace installed underneath the bolt head, and do the same down there. All right, guys, that's the plan. Stay tuned, we'll see if this sucker works. All right, guys, we've got the Kein Fab fender brace installed. Check it out. As you can see, I had to add a couple more bolts. I had to add these bolts over here. Those are actually about 20mm long by about 10mm in size for the bolt, and I think it's coarse thread. And then same over here. I did a little bit longer over here. I think I did about 25mm long. Same thing, 10mm width of the bolt and coarse thread. These are the factory bolts. I actually replaced the factory ones with ones a little bit longer. You didn't have to remove the doors, as you guys saw in the time lapse. I actually put a little brace underneath this mirror right here to kind of hold the door up. Not a factory recommended procedure, but it seemed like a 2x4 with a little padding on it, holding this mirror up and leaving the door latched on that side, created enough support where I could remove these bolts, put the brace on, and then put new bolts in. and the bracket in the hole alignment didn't actually move at all. I was able to hold it all in place and not worry about this door budging at all. But while I did that, I also actually checked the alignment and the gap in the door. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the gap in the door, and that will ensure that you have these all aligned correctly. So that's basically the installation procedure, guys. This is a Kein Fab fender braces. Of course, we're looking at a GC chassis. This is my two-door coupe with that 2004 WRX engine swap. And I gotta say, guys, it was a really easy procedure. All the bolt holes lined up flawlessly. I didn't have to remove the door or worry about that at all. Basically, all you have to do, as you can see, is remove the fender, install the fender brace, and I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall the fender, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then, guys, I'll have both these fender braces done, and we'll move on to the next Kein Fab installation process, which is gonna be that rear diff support right here. This, guys, will actually be the next video in this Kein Fab installation series. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. This was an installation DIY on the Kein Fab fender braces. And as you guys can see, these are the silver fender braces, but Kein Fab actually offers these in a multitude of colors, and he offers these for a lot of different body styles of Subaru. So check out his Facebook page, check out his Instagram page, which is at @fkeinfab, and check out his eBay store. He actually sells all these parts on his eBay store, and his parts are being sold in Subaru parts distributors all over the world. So make sure you guys check out Kein Fab and get yourself some of these fender braces for your Subaru. Thanks so much for checking out the video, guys. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions or any comments, please go ahead and leave in the comments section. If you guys need any fluids or any brake parts or any other miscellaneous parts for your Subarus, make sure you check out my Subaru Amazon store. The website is amazon.com/shop/SubaruONLY. Check it out, guys. I've got all kinds of Subaru parts, and I've got a lot of the tools that you guys see in these videos that I sell on my Amazon store as well. So if you guys need any parts or any tools, check out the Amazon store. And last, guys, I want to thank Sergey Kein and Kein Fabrication for sponsoring this video. So thank you, Sergey. I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank Jeremiah RAINE for hooking up this deal and helping coordinate everything. So thanks again for checking out the video, guys. I really appreciate it. My name's Luke, and as you guys know, you guys have been watching the SubaruONLY Show. Thanks again for watching this video, guys. As you guys know, I'm a diehard Subaru enthusiast, and I've also had the opportunity to be involved in motorsports for over 2 decades now. But I'm also a professional hydrogeologist, and I've actually spent years in laboratories performing experiments where I studied the flow of fluids using the properties of physics and fluid mechanics. In these YouTube videos, I'm actually able to combine my experience from the laboratories and all the research I've done with my experience from all the motorsport series I've been involved in, and my passion for Subarus. If you have any professional inquiries about Subaru-related R&D or digital marketing and media, you can contact me at SubaruONLYshop@gmail.com. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope to hear from you soon.